Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Valerie Palombas, and I'm Equality California's National Policy Director. Thanks to the generous support of AT&T Foundation and Sempra Energy, Equality California is able to help the LGBTQ community respond to the COVID-19 crisis. If you haven't already done so, I suggest you look at our website. Equality California has created one, is COVID-19 at eqca.org, where you'll find links to a wide range of services that are provided at the federal level, at the state level, and the county level. The other thing that we're doing is we're hosting a series of webinars that are designed to help LGBTQ people and our allies navigate these seriously challenging times. Today is our fourth webinar in the series, and our topic is building and engaging your LinkedIn network. This is obviously a critical area of discussion, given that somewhere between 30 and 40 million people have lost their jobs across the country. Others have been furloughed, they've lost income from side gigs, and other income generating opportunities and no longer able to meet their monthly expenses. Another thing that Equality California has done is we've established a telephone helpline. This is an area where people can call up and they can ask questions about their personal circumstances, and then they'll get a call back from someone on staff. I do some of these phone calls too. Many of the calls we've fielded have been from people who have lost their jobs and their benefits, which is why this particular seminar today is really timely. So I'm so happy to introduce our two guest speakers today from LinkedIn. Sarah Jo Neubauer is the Enterprise Customer Success Manager, and Calvin Lou Navarro is a LinkedIn technical recruiter for LinkedIn. So just so you know, all of our webinars are being recorded. They'll remain accessible on our website. There is a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please post any questions to our guest speakers. Your questions won't be visible to the other people who are watching the webinar, but I can see them and our speakers can see them. Just to let you know that after today's webinar, you'll be getting an email from Equality California. We're going to be sending out the links to the recorded webinar. The slides that are being shared will be added to the email, and other resources that we hope will be helpful to you. So Sarah Jo and Calvin, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so grateful to have you.
Thank you, Valerie. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Valerie.
Absolutely. So I understand that you'll be sharing your slides with us, and we'll be able to follow your presentation in real time. I don't know if you have any opening comments you wanted to make before you start showing your slides to us, but we'd be super grateful for your thoughts today.
Yes, absolutely. So just really want to lean into what you shared, Valerie, knowing that there's a lot of change and uncertainty, kind of grieving and acceptance of the state of the world right now, and with millions of people out of work or on the precipice of that, we just really want to kind of honor where people are and really spend a lot of our minutes today taking questions as well. The focus of our conversation is really on how do we kind of continue to build community and engage with our community via our social platform, the LinkedIn network, especially during this time. So we will focus on three main pieces, and we'll share our slides shortly. One is just the power of LinkedIn. You know, some folks on the call or listening to this recording might really not fully be leveraging LinkedIn and the professional community or the community within, and how to build that. So we'll talk a little bit about the power of LinkedIn and why LinkedIn. We'll spend the bulk of our time really talking about the three specific ways to build and engage your network. And then of course, we're going to spend quite a bit of time on answering people's questions in real time. And we can always do a demo of a platform or talk a little bit about different specific pieces too that people have questions on, especially if you're in your job search or launching a job search. So I'll pause there and I'll go ahead and share the slides. Give me 1 second. Certainly, Calvin,
Sarah, as you're starting to do that, maybe we could get the comments or the responses to the first poll that were put up just as we were getting started. It's nice to know sort of what people are thinking. So as you can see from the first question that's on the screen, which of these following apply to you? You're unemployed and looking for work. Number 2, employed and looking for a new job. And number 3, wanting to grow my network. These are questions that our panelists, I think, will find really helpful to sort of know what the main thinking is of the people who are on the webinar right now. And so here are the responses. No one right now, according to this, is unemployed and looking for work. 60% of the people who have responded, who are on the webinar right now, say they're employed and looking for a new job. And then another 40% are wanting to grow their own network. So I hope that you find that helpful, Sarah Jo and Calvin, in helping us lead the presentation today.
Yes, absolutely helpful. So that's really good to know. So we can kind of, again, curate the presentation for you and tailor to your needs. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm working with multiple screens here, so it's always a fun a fun challenge.
I can share as well.
Oh, great.
Easier. Let me see. You know, see?
Yes, perfect. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Perfect.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Thank you, Calvin.
Of course. Might be a little bit slow, my computer. I have a lot of tabs open as well.
No problem. So as Calvin shares the agenda slide, which I've kind of went over, we want to share that the mission of LinkedIn is to connect the world's professionals, to make them more productive and successful, and to really connect individuals in the global workforce to each other and ensure economic opportunity for everyone. And so I'm happy to share, there's, believe it or not, over 700 million members on the LinkedIn platform today. That's a lot of people. And 1 to 2 users are joining the platform every second. And we're also happy to share that we have 50+ million companies on the LinkedIn platform as well. That's a lot of companies. So again, as we think about how might we leverage this massive professional network and companies and the jobs that they have open, or the people that belong to those companies, if you put yourself in the middle of that, how do you start leveraging and thinking about that really expansive and powerful network? And that's kind of our work to do as someone in a job search or about to be launched into a job search, and thinking about that. And so that's a little bit about LinkedIn. I also want to share that I think there's almost a nomenclature out there that, oh, I'm not ready to use LinkedIn yet because I'm not in a job search. So I really go there when I'm in a job search, or if I'm in talent acquisition or talent development, then I'm going to look for talent in that way. But I really want to stress the importance that LinkedIn has invested a lot of resources in being a credible and reliable news source. So I encourage you to think about LinkedIn as a kind of a source for information and relevant and timely business news. So just like you would, follow Forbes or follow a Wall Street Journal or other business news, LinkedIn is really building out their editorial team in that space too, and giving you live updates on what companies are doing and adjusting and being agile in this time. So just another great information source for you. So next slide. Great. I really, and I think Kelvin would agree, we really want to know why you're here today. So you may have a chance to think about, or maybe there's a poll around that, or if folks can chat into, what do you want to take away? Why are you here? What did you come to learn more about? Those questions would really be welcome as well, so we can make sure we're tailoring this to you. I see there's a poll. Do you have a LinkedIn profile? That's a good place to start. So do you have a LinkedIn profile? Yes. And you actively use it, or yes, but you're not quite active in it, or no, but you want to create one. It's on your to-do list maybe. What do those results look like, Valerie?
There you go.
Yeah, so it seems like most people in the webinar today already have them. Well, all of you guys have a profile already.
Great. Excellent. Thanks for that. Good to know where we're starting from once again. So really, we want to make sure that we'll show, we'll talk about, since most of you have a LinkedIn profile, there might be times, I know I'm guilty of this sometimes, right? Setting up a profile and going, okay, I need to solve this pain point. I'll come back and fill it out later. And so Kelvin will walk us through really, some really important best practices and tips and tricks to optimize your profile, especially as you're heading into a job search. And then you will also talk, of course, about how now that you have this strong profile, you need connections, posts, engagement. What's a great way to do that, especially in today's climate? So over to you, Kelvin.
Thank you, Sergio. 1 second. There you go. So yeah, like all of you guys already have a LinkedIn profile, so a lot of things should be very familiar to you all. But I know sometimes people have questions. Like I had questions when I created one. There's a lot of things that you're not really sure about. So happy to provide some just tips and tricks. And hopefully after this one, you can also be the, LinkedIn profile expert and be able to share that with your friends and families as well. So the very first step, just add a photo and a headline. A lot of times I think the thing that people think is like, oh, it has to be a very formal photo or it has to be a headshot, which I do. But that doesn't mean that you have to as well. It's really more of like a LinkedIn profile is whichever one that you feel the most comfortable with about yourself. So it's your profile, your story, and it's how you want to kind of tell that story to the audience. So for example, in my case, as you can see, excuse me, the profile is a headshot. However, the banner doesn't have to be anything professional. Mine is really simply just me and my husband walking our dog on the beach. It's our story. It's something that I actually care about, and it's something that I want the people to know. And also the headline as well, it can be as simple as what you do or what your passion is, or something like, it can be anything, like your exploration goal, etc. Mine is, I'm very passionate about connecting people, and it happens to be in a company where it allows me to do that. So I can combine both together to create my headline. Industry location, I'll probably say it was a lot more important before the pandemic, because a lot of companies were really about, hiring people, being able to come to the physical space and being able to show up in person. With the pandemic happening, a lot of companies or managers are more open to remote workers. However, adding a location industry will actually still be able to help you make that connection. Especially, I think a lot of people are worried about, oh, once I connect to somebody, I don't know how to start a conversation. And this actually will be a good conversation starter. Be like, hey, I see you are in this industry. This is the industry that I'm also in, or this is the industry that I'm interested in learning more. And that will be able to actually give you conversation starter to be able to have a more natural flowing conversation moving forward. And the third thing is summary. Summary, I think a lot of people think, okay, this is an area where I want to pack a lot of things in there. But something that I want to say about summary is really an opportunity to really show who you are. Like I said, LinkedIn is a place where you tell about your story to be the true authentic yourself. So summary is not the place you want to just talk about professional stuff. You can talk about what you do. You can talk about what your passion is. You can talk about what you want to do in the future in your free time. So for example, in my case, my summary is really about, at the beginning is my journey. I was born, raised in China, and I grew up in China as well. And I went to Santa Cruz in California for school, and now I'm at LinkedIn, but I don't know where I will be next. So it's more of like talking about my personal journey. And after that, I did talk a little bit more about my work, a little bit overview summary about what I do, and a little bit more about, my accomplishments and results. However, the last sentence, I did conclude my summary with my free time hobbies. That's something that I feel like it really differentiates LinkedIn and the resume. On my resume, I probably wouldn't say that I like to cook and going on hikes with my husband and my dogs, but I do put it on my LinkedIn profile, because this is more about just who I am, not just about, I want to present myself as a professional worker just by itself. However, summary-wise, again, it's really about your story, whatever that you feel the most comfortable with. If you don't want to add anything personal, just professional stuff, go for it. Or if you want to add all about your personal stuff, go for it as well. There's really no rules about what's right or what's wrong. And your work experience. This is probably a big chunk of your LinkedIn profile. I think a lot of times people get confused about, okay, I have my resume, I have my LinkedIn profile, kind of what's the difference? So to me, a good thing about LinkedIn profile is that it allows you to have multimedia things on the inside your work experience. For example, on your resume, you probably will add your work and maybe some links. However, there's no way, maybe some pictures, but not a lot. However, on the LinkedIn platform, you can add all of the things, including even videos, as well as, for example, if you're in the art field, you can add your portfolio under there as well. Or if you are in media production, you can add the videos you produced. If you're in engineering, you can add the apps or the open source technology or open source things that you have contributed. All of the things are considered your work experience, even though they might not be the actual work that you've done in your full-time job or side job or part-times. However, it's something that you have been working towards too. And the second thing I love about LinkedIn is that it actually will allow you to build up your career progression. As you can see, this is my profile. I've been growing with LinkedIn for a little bit over 3 years, and it actually shows my career progression. And that's something that definitely will be very, very important, especially as I'm talking to hiring managers. I realize a lot of things people are looking for is not just about your hardcore skills, but more of your soft skills as well. And the big thing in soft skills is your career progression, your eagerness to learn, your eagerness to grow, as well as your motivation. And by showing your career progression, doesn't matter if it's your current company or your previous company, can actually talk a lot about that than just talking about, like your job title, etc. And the third thing is, I'll probably say a little bit trick to in terms of working experience or even on your resume, is that when you add your working experience, you want to really quantify your work experience. Because like, again, we can talk about, I hire a lot of people, I work with a lot of group members, I do a lot of projects, but those words are very vague. And as a recruiter myself, when I look at resume or LinkedIn profile, what I look at is the possibility or the potential fit of the candidate to the role. And then the interview is an opportunity to really test those skills. So by actually giving me the confidence that you can potentially be a fit for the role, that's when you get an interview invite. So how I look at the confidence is actually by looking at your experience. So when you say you hired 10 engineers versus hire a lot of engineers, so in my mind, I kind of know, okay, so the kind of the industry area, the average. So when I know that based on your interview, your work experience, how would I place that into my head in terms of your potential performance? If it's a mid average, below the average, or above the average. If those are mid or above the average, that's when I get a confidence of you can perform the role. And that's when I will be able to potentially have a conversation with you and invite you for interview. So by adding those numbers can really give you the opportunity to have the recruiter or the hiring manager have a more in-depth of like the confidence in your work experience. And education training, very straightforward as well. You can at your school, you can add your scholarships and honors, your activities, etc. This I'll probably say more important for people who are about to graduate or who is in school looking for internships. This is where you can really showcase your skills, your classes you've taken, the honors and scholarships you've gotten. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. Really an opportunity to showcase more than just maybe, for example, if you are in computer science, but you also want to do something art related, and they can really showcase all of the skills that you have, and they'll also be able to open more doors for you as well. And volunteer experiences and accomplishments, that's something I get a lot of questions about because people don't think it's necessary to put a volunteer experience on their LinkedIn profile, or they don't really know the values of it. So like I said, it's more, LinkedIn profile is more of telling your story. I feel like more and more people or companies are looking at hire a person, not just a robot or person who can just do the job. So when they look at a person, they look at both your hardcore skills, of course, and soft skills and your passion and how you can fit in. right? So a lot of people are actually really passionate about different areas that you might not be able to do them into a day-to-day job. So for example, in my case, me and my husband are really passionate about wildlife. So we do a lot of work and we donate to the charities and nonprofit organizations, to the wildlife rescue organizations. That's something that I might not be able to do day-to-day in my job, but that's something that I'm passionate about. And that's really, I get a lot of connections and actually conversations because of that. And you can add whatever you feel most comfortable with. You know, people volunteer at, you know, homeless gardens, people volunteer at soup kitchens, people volunteer, you know, at like with underrepresented groups. So all of things are showing about who you are as a person. And you need to really think about your LinkedIn profile is not just a piece of resume. It's really about you as a person and how you want to tell your stories. And of course, accomplishments, you know, the courses you've taken, the words you've gotten, the publications, the language that you speak. A lot of times people get really impressed by people speak multiple languages. And that's something that you might not be able to put on a resume where you don't think it's relevant. Actually, it's a very, very special skills, and you know, a lot of people are actually dying to have, and something that you can put on there as well. And of course, interest, because that actually is a good way to have a conversation with people who share the similar interest. It will be a great conversation starter as well. And last but not least, skills and recommendations. I know people like to put a lot of skills on the resume, which is great. So for example, when I look at a software engineer resume, a lot of times people put every single programming language on there, which is great. It means that, you know, you're very versatile, you know a lot of languages. But if I were looking for somebody with an expertise in one specific programming language, I might not be able to really tell how comfortable you are with that one specific language. But with LinkedIn skills, not only you put it on there, you can have people to endorse those skills. And that to me is can give me the confidence of, okay, you are really good at this one programming language. Not only, you know, you have a lot of endorsements, maybe people in the field also give you endorsement, where people with share the similar expertise give you that endorsement. And that's, again, goes back to what I said, gives me the confidence, feel like you could be a potential fit for the role, which will allow me to have a conversation with you and give you an interview opportunity. So again, those are very just like quick go through tips and tricks. There's no right or wrong. It's really how you want to present yourself in the professional world. However, just because it's professional does not mean that you cannot make it personal. So feel free to, you know, put in whatever you feel comfortable. There's no really one way of doing your LinkedIn profile, and whatever you put on there cannot be wrong, and do whatever them feel the most comfortable and most authentic about yourself. And go back to you, Sergio.
Great. Thanks, Calvin. Thanks for those great tips. So we'll go ahead and move on to the second pillar of our session here, which is really, so now you have this fantastic profile, you feel more confident in the way you're presenting your professional brand and your authentic self through your profile, and it's up to date. You know, now what? So the objective now is to really expand your pool, expand your network, and also expand your scope of information that you're consuming and you're taking in and interacting with, and even sharing. So that really comes from different people. What influencers are you following? Business leaders, thought leaders, and different opportunities that might come your way. So I do want to call out that there's a few schools of thought here around kind of taking care of your network. And, you know, one school of thought is to connect with people that you've met in person, or that you've worked with before, or you've, you know, met at a conference, or you've volunteered with, or you've been on a cross-functional team with, you know, these kinds of things. And I think that is, I agree with that. I do that too. And I open my network up a little bit more. And you know, certainly calling out in this current climate that it's not feasible to meet everyone in person, and to kind of build your in-person relationship before you connect with them on LinkedIn. So I just want to call that out. And I personally have a fairly open network, even though I may not have met you in person. If I feel like we have similar things in common, or I might even ask, like, why do you want to connect with me? What, was there something on my profile that you saw? Or so this is where I would give you the tip of when you are reaching out to connect with someone and expand your network and feel like it's important for you to be in first connection with someone, that you tell them why. So add a note. If you're using InMail to do that, or just sending a connection request and sending a note, as it were, then I would say why. Oh my gosh, we just, there's 15,000 people that work at LinkedIn, and I certainly have never met everyone in person. But there might be somebody that's new on a call that we were on, and I was like, hey, Danny, great to see you on this call. I'm, going to add you as a connection request. Or even today, meeting Valerie and Zizi as well. It's like, we've just partnered together on this thing. I'm going to send you a connection request. Let's stay connected throughout our professional journeys. So then you might stumble across people that you've not met, and maybe you've just had a conversation, or you really like what they posted or how they framed something. You could even say that, hey, Julie, it looks like, we are aligned on this. I really liked how you shared this article on how it's going to be to return to work and people's different comfort in that space. And I'd love to follow you or stay connected with you. So the point here is just like really use those soft skills, those communication skills on telling the why. And that's going to start to build your network. And thinking of other ways to build and expand your scope in your network is to follow different hashtags of interest. So this is oftentimes not necessarily the first thing people know that you can do on LinkedIn, is that you can search in the search bar at the top, hashtag job seeker, hashtag hiring, hashtag a different industry, healthcare, biotech, you name it, even veteran. If you're a veteran on the call, military veteran, you can look for different hashtags of your specific attributes or interests, things that you want flowing into your newsfeed, or people being introduced to new thought leaders or influencers. So I know I follow, I think, diversity in tech, women leaders, innovation. I'm also really interested in job search and hiring and talent development. So I follow these kinds of things, ed tech. So really think about in your function. So if you are a sales manager and you're thinking, oh, I'm looking for a new job someday soon in this industry, start following that and start consuming that content and connecting and expanding your network. I'm also took the +1 pledge and feel strongly about closing the network gap. And so that as professionals, we're not just circling in our own kind of swim lanes, if you were. I really want to be expanded to diversity in thought and diversity in professionals and life. So that's also something that you might consider too. For those, I know not a lot of folks are on the call right now that have been laid off or are open to work, but there might be people listening on the webinar to the recording. And so there's also a new filter that you can put on your profile that says open to work. You might see a little banner, a green banner. And so that's really up to you on how comfortable you are. It's certainly a signal to recruiters or hiring, and when they just come across a profile with that, oh, that's someone who's looking right now. So we're really trying to, again, make it really easy in the product and on the platform for all kind of stakeholders at this time. And then I think I mentioned that to follow different news sources as well. I'm a big fan of also following career coaches and looking for career advice and seeing because job seekers in my mind and certainly hiring managers and recruiters like Calvin are on the front lines of that process. And so I want to know what's up to date and what's the current thinking and around recruiting, hiring, and job seeking. So you might also follow different career coaches and instead of sending connection requests to recruiters like Kelvin or other people, you might also just follow them. So there's a difference there, right? Into following people to see their posts and to engage with them in that way, but to not necessarily be a first connection with them. So just really think about those two different ways of engaging. Kelvin, do you have anything else to add to that piece?
No, I think most things you cover really well. I think one thing that I would say is really do not be scared. I think a lot of times when people send an invite or when people follow or trying to have a conversation, a big thing is, oh, what if they don't respond? Or what if, like I don't have a really good background, like how people look at me? And that's something that I thought too when I started using LinkedIn and sending out connections. And at the end of the day, you can really control what other people do. You can really control what other people think. It's really about how you want to do it yourself, about your profile and your network. And the worst thing I always tell people that can happen is really just no response. But a lot of times, I got my job throughout connecting with somebody at LinkedIn that got me the position. And, it happens, but sometimes you might have to send 200 invites and maybe just 2 people accepted it. But those 2 people definitely you will have a very strong connection with. And, don't worry, because a lot of times people are worried about, like, oh, I don't really know that person, but it's really what connection is about, right? It's not just about connecting with people that you know. It's about expanding your network and connecting with the people that you don't know or don't share the same perspective on something. And that's kind of how you'll be able to expand your network that way.
That's a fantastic tip. I love that. And you just don't know what value someone will bring to you or what value you will bring to someone in the future. I think a lot about that as well. So maybe there's a reason, right, why this person's reaching out to you that it's not obvious right now, or that you are reaching out to them, but in the future, your paths are going to cross in this interesting way, or you'll be able to help each other out in a job search, or a recommendation, or a referral, or informational interview, or information on how the industry is shifting in the world. So absolutely. I think we can move on to the next slide, and we're really ready to start talking about engaging with your network, right? So we've built a great profile. We're starting to add connections and really think about how to expand our professional network and the news that we're consuming and looking at in our LinkedIn feed. Next, we're talking about how to engage with our network. And so it's a living and breathing thing, right? And really does take some kind of care and TLC and watering and feeding, if you will. And so your contributions to your network matters. So what are you sharing in the platform? This really establishes your expertise and reinforces your value to them, and tells your colleagues in your network what you're working on, right? Share what you're learning. I think, gone are the days where we have to really be a know-it-all, as it were, right? Or show up in that way of knowing everything, but where can you find a kind of vulnerability or humility, and really show that you are a learner and that you're kind of grappling with this content and asking questions and posing questions to your network. Hey, what do you think about this? This is my take. I'd love to hear other people's perspectives. And what that does is it really shows, again, you're a learner, you really accept feedback, and you really understand there's a lot of diversity of thought in the world and perspective. And it's almost a proxy for how you'll show up as someone in the workplace to work with. And you can imagine hiring managers seeing your profile or how you're showing up in this platform, or recruiters. That's a win. That's really valuable, and will come across great. So this also invites collaboration, collective learning with others. And you can also share your thoughts and knowledge on industry trends, what you're seeing, and really remain visible. And then to get more traction in your posts, use hashtags. I just posted something today about a upcoming live LinkedIn session around allyship and anti-racism, and how to be an ally in a professional workplace. And so I added a few hashtags to that too, and that will get more visibility and more, it'll travel longer, right? So I think that's an important piece too, to help you expand your network and also develop more conversations with people. In our next 2 slides, I believe these are just really takeaways for you, is one, posting and publishing best practices. And sometimes we get questions about, how do you do it, or what are some best practices? How long should these articles be if I'm writing articles, or how long should my posts be? We know that using photos and videos really, as humans, we like these visuals. We're used to that when we're on the internet. So these are just some best practices for posting. And then I think the next slide is best practices for writing articles on LinkedIn, another way to really show your expertise and to share what you're thinking. And so I think that's what we got for you all. And in summary, we've covered best practices in your profile and getting that up to par as you head into a job search or think about that, how to expand your pool of news as well as your connections and people, and then also how to engage with your network, and especially now during our global pandemic. So I'm going to stop talking and just really invite any questions, Valerie, from our audience, and certainly Calvin, if you have anything to add as we wrap up too and answer questions.
That's amazing. So if you've just joined us after our webinar began, welcome to Equality California's 4th webinar in our COVID series. Today's topic is building and engaging your LinkedIn network. And our 2 guest speakers from LinkedIn have been Sarah Jo Neubauer, who is Enterprise Customer Success Manager, and Calvin Lou Navarro, who is a LinkedIn technical recruiter. So if you have any questions for our speakers, please put them in the Q&A box. As I said, they won't be visible to the other people who are on the presentation, but the speakers, and I can see them and we can answer them. So I just wanted to thank both of our speakers. Sarah Jo and Calvin, you were amazing. I just was blown away to hear that 700 million people are on LinkedIn globally. And really your whole presentation about how to best present yourself as a 3-dimensional person, rather than just sort of like, your resume, was super helpful. I mean, I intend to immediately rewrite my own profile. And also I think the way you sort of focused on bringing out not just your professional, hard skills, but also your soft skills and all the tips about how to expand the networks is super, super helpful. So again, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, and our presenters can answer. While we're waiting for them to come in, maybe I could just ask a couple things. So I'm wondering how job seekers should best maximize their outreach. Do you think that sitting, say, in front of your LinkedIn profile and sending out hundreds of connection invitations is a good use of time?
Well, like I said, there's really no right or wrong of how you do it. I mean, I certainly did in terms of sending out a lot of invites to people when I was looking for my first job in college. But it's really more about why you send that invite to the person. It's really not about how many invites you send. You can send 2, 20, 200, but it's really more about why you want to connect with that person, like Sarah Jo said, right? So to me, I connected with a lot of recruiters when I was looking for jobs because I really wanted to be in the recruiting industry. I connected especially with people that were in my, school organizations that end up being a recruiter, or in my school end up being recruiters, and to learn more about, their stories, why they wanted to be a recruiter, what's it like to be a recruiter in those in companies. And, there's a lot of recruiters out there, so I end up sending out a lot of invites. But all those invites were meaningful and be able to help me and also help that person to get a little bit more of each other. And that to me is fine. But if you're just sending out invite to people that you don't really know why you want to connect with, or you don't really know that you could just because you see it on the platform, then not be the best of use time for you or that person. And again, that might not also get the invite accepted from that person as well.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, Sarah Jo talked somewhat about, following people necessarily than approaching them directly. What about soliciting endorsements? That was something I remember, when I set up my profile page, years ago. One of the things that I did, and I got a lot of requests from people asking me to endorse them, and I was asking people to endorse. How valuable do you think that is?
Sure. I remember a few slides ago, Kelvin talked a little bit about adding skills and recommendations, and I feel like endorsements kind of fit into that same space, Valerie. I will say, endorsements are just a quick hit of like, yes, I know Valerie for public speaking, Valerie for community action and outreach, because I've just seen you in action, right? And so that's kind of a quick hit way of like, maybe I don't have time to write you a recommendation about that skill, but I really want to kind of recognize it for you. It's almost like a high five. That's kind of how I see it. It's like, yes, you're very good at this. That said, I would say that if you really want to take it one step further, that the recommendations have more weight. So writing a formal recommendation for a colleague will go a long way, or asking someone to write one for you goes a little bit further away, because it really shows that someone's taken time to write a short paragraph or a few sentences about what this person's really good at. And it's almost like if you think about Yelp in a way, a review, it's a third party saying, yes, this person is great at this, or I highly recommend this person being on a team. And it goes a long way. And I know when I was a hiring manager, I would read those. And I would ask Calvin, as a recruiter, do you read those? How much weight does the endorsement versus recommendation carry for you as a recruiter?
Yeah, I actually read those a lot as well. Especially, I think it used to be just like, when you had the resume, you'd be like, oh, can I check your reference? But this is more of like, I guess less serious in that way, but more informative, right? And the people, you don't feel the pressure of like, oh, like, are you gonna say something bad about me? But people who write recommendations are truly somebody, who respects you, who really wants to talk good things about your skills and their time being working with you, etc. And those actually carry a lot of weight because, again, from what I said, that gives me the confidence of you can potentially do the job. And that gives me the confidence of like having a conversation with you, or the hiring manager wanting to have a conversation with you because they felt like you've done something phenomenal in your role that, carry that throughout the recommendations.
So we've just gotten 3 great questions in our Q&A box. I don't know if the presenters can read them, but I'll just read the first one. And if you can't read the others, I'll read the other ones too as well. So the first one is, do you recommend we reach out directly to recruiters for companies we're interested in? Or, sorry, my father's calling. Or do recruiters usually contact people? So maybe that's a good question for you, Calvin. And I don't know if you can see the other 2 questions, but I can read them to you after this. But I think we're getting some great questions in our Q&A box.
Great, yeah, thank you, Valerie. Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really depends. It's case by case basis. So I guess I think in my opinion, if you're actively looking for a job, it might not be the best interest for you to just wait and for the recruiters or the hiring manager to reach out to you. You want to be proactively reach out to recruiters or the hiring managers, especially to those companies or the field that you are interested in, where you want to get into. Again, the reality is you might not get a lot of responses, or you might not get a response from every single person you reach out to. But a lot of times it really takes that one person, like, sure, let's chat, for you to kind of get more insights and be able to, either get an interview or even land a job at the company that you're dreaming of. In terms of people, the recruiter reaching out to you, I always say, recruiter reach out to me as well to work with other companies. What I do is just maybe because I'm a recruiter, I always understand the frustration of not getting a response. So I always respond to people, even if when I'm not looking. First of all, I appreciate the person reaching out to me because the person took the time. Doesn't matter if it's 2 seconds or 20 minutes. I should look at my profile and figure out something on my profile could be a potential fit for the person for the role. So I actually really appreciate that. And I kind of tell the recruiter, well, whoever reached out, right, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for taking time to look at my profile, and to say, okay, I'm not looking right now. However, I want to keep in touch, because at the end of the day, I think like Sergio said, you might not be in need of somebody where the connection right now, but you never know in the future how your paths may cross, right? So, and I know that someday down the road, I might be interested in learning more about other opportunities, or just simply learning more, or the person might be interested in learning more about LinkedIn. I want to work at LinkedIn, and I want to kind of keep that connection going. And this is how you also expand your network, expand your presence on the platform, is by just being able to connect with people and kind of share that. And again, I would highly encourage you. Maybe I'm a little bit biased, that when the recruiter reach out to you, at least respond, say no, thank you, or yes, let's chat, instead of like putting them, unheard. Because at the end of the day, people do, like, I do spend time looking at your profile. I'm not reaching out to you because I'm bored or because I'm a robot. I just do it. It's really something on your profile sparked my interest. I really feel like this could be a good fit, and that's why I reach out to you. And at the end of the day, if you're not interested, that's totally fine. It's not going to hurt my feelings, but a no thank you will be very nice as well.
Great. We have a bunch of questions that are pouring into the chat box. It's great. So another one is I've seen jobs that allow you to apply directly with your LinkedIn through LinkedIn. Is that better than sending the traditional cover letter and resume?
Calvin, I might look to you.
I'm like thinking,
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, LinkedIn profile is really a combination of your resume and your cover letter and much more. So to me, when I have the opportunity to click easy apply with my LinkedIn profile, I would prefer that over a resume because, like I said, the summary section could be the cover letter, but more personal. And your work experience could be just a resume, but more informative. And then on top of that, you have the skill endorsements, you have your recommendations, all of things can really showcase about your application. So to me, if I have the option, I'll prefer to click easy apply through my LinkedIn profile than the resume. However, I know a lot of companies do require both, and that's fine too.
Mm-hmm. This is sort of an operative question. So are bullet point descriptions of job description of job duties better than a narrative type paragraph description?
I'll jump in here and say, I just looked at Kelvin's and I see, I think we both have the same. We both have some jobs that have little bullets and some have small paragraphs or a few sentences. And I will say, I'll own it, hold myself accountable. I need to go in and clean up my work experience area, and I would remove a few bullets. And it's really up to you and your preference. There's no right or wrong way with that. And the caveat I would say to that is just remember that people don't always read.
Mm-hmm.
And so on the web, right, we're browsing, we're glancing, we're looking for something sometimes at a profile, just like getting a overview. And so how can you best present yourself and what you've accomplished and your skills and experience for each job that you've had and where you want to go in the future, thinking about the future too. So that's how I would frame that. If it's 3 bullet points, great, with some numbers about, how you've come into budget or you've raised X amount of money, that you've hit your goals, or this is what you can bring to a team. Fantastic. If your style is more in 3 sentences than bullets, that's great too. That's my 2 cents. What do you think, Kelvin?
Yeah, I agree. I think really, like you said, there's no right or wrong way of writing it, but it's more of like how you want to have your accomplishments stand out, right? If it's like in a paragraph or if it's in the bullet points, whichever way that you think that could really have your accomplishments or things you've done stand out, that's might be the better way to do it. Like Sarah Jo said, not a lot of people might read your profile, and recruiters might not spend a lot of time on your profile. Kind of how you catch the eyes of a recruiter, what a hiring manager or whoever that's reading your profile, that's more important. That's why I like to have numbers on my profile, because when you have all the letters, then you have like numbered there, it can actually spark interest of the person. Oh, what's the number about? And then they might be able to read more about your profile. So that's really how I can view it.
That's super helpful. We have a question here about LinkedIn Premium. So the question is, what are the added benefits to have a LinkedIn Premium profile versus just a regular account?
Sure. I can share that LinkedIn Premium allows you to have access to LinkedIn Learning, which has 15,000 courses in business, creative, and technology. And there's new courses being added to that platform all of the time. So that's one piece of it. And then also with LinkedIn Premium, it allows you to have something we call InMail. So that allows you to send a note or a message to people you're not connected with. And you can imagine that during a job search, that could be a really, really value add to be able to hit the inbox of people you don't have an email address for, and you don't have a first connection with them, or you don't have anybody in common to have someone make an introduction to you. So it just kind of opens up the gate a little bit in that way. So I can't remember how many emails you get per month, but I know that it's pretty effective to have that functionality. And then I know that one of the best benefits is that you can see who's looking at your profile. So again, you can imagine if you're in a job search, it's helpful to see who's looking at your profile. You know, if I just landed an interview, you know, did the recruiter look at my profile? Did the hiring manager look at my profile? So it almost helps you prepare yourself better for that job search process. So I think that's a huge value add, is you can see who's looking at your profile. But Kelvin, any other benefits I may have missed?
Those are great benefits. Actually, I wanted to say plus one on email, because my personal story, when I was in college, you know, I didn't have a lot of friends working in recruiting. I actually wrote an email to our VP of recruiting at LinkedIn, Brendan Brown. I actually wrote him an email about expressing my interest in recruiting, and of course, not expecting him to respond. He actually did respond, and actually, once I joined LinkedIn, he actually remembered me when we ran into each other and had a quick conversation. Yeah, so again, it's just kind of like the power of email. And of course, he probably wouldn't have remember me or recognize me if I didn't send him that email. But another benefit I believe that we have on Premium is also you can see a lot more data when you apply for a company or a job. You can see the trend of the company, you can see the applicants, kind of how many people applied, etc., and where you stand at among those applicants. And that's also very helpful as well when you're looking for opportunities.
I think one time I was wondering how I could look at someone's LinkedIn profile, but they wouldn't necessarily know that I was checking them out, you know, sort of thinking about who else might be in a company or something. If you're a member of, if you have the premium account, can you sort of, does it give you access to looking at people's profiles and they don't necessarily get a ping that you've looked at their account?
I don't remember. I don't know about that functionality, Valerie, with Premium. I know that you can, in your profile settings, you can kind of turn on or off your anonymity. I can't say that word. You being anonymous when you're looking at profiles. So to your point, you can kind of turn off so that other people can't see if you're looking at their profiles or not.
Well, that's great to know.
Yeah.
We have a question about privacy settings. So it said, what about privacy settings? I tend to be more private on my online presence, but is there a benefit to having my LinkedIn profile be more public? And then there's a nice thing. Thank you so much, Calvin and Sarah.
Yeah, of course. I totally understand about the privacy, because at the end of the day, it's your story, how you want to share on the internet and the public. So I would say at the bottom line is your comfortability, because there's really no one pushing you of how much you can share or how much you want to share. It's really how you feel the most comfortable, how much you share to the public. But a good thing about having a bigger presence, I would say, on the platform is really to have the opportunity for people to know about you better in the professional setting. Doesn't matter if you are passionate about a specific topic, or doesn't matter if down the road you're looking for new opportunities. Bigger presence does mean that you will be able to be seen, I guess, more on the platform, and that a lot of times will trigger down a lot of opportunities to you. But at the end of the day, I would say, yeah, it's really how comfortable you are. If you don't want to share a lot of things that you are doing, for example, when I talk to engineers, a lot of work that they're doing is confidential, and I totally get that, because a lot of tech companies have their own projects going on internally, and I respect that. And at the end of the day, it's really what you want to share with me. That's what I would take. I'm not going to be able to dig much more if you don't feel comfortable, and that's kind of the line, I would say.
Yeah, I would just add to that question around privacy is, what's your goal in the end also? And, sometimes we have to take intelligent risks, especially if we're in a job search, for example, on kind of, again, being uncomfortable sometimes in expanding our network or being kind of open to these other opportunities. And so I think, one of the reasons why I'm really kind of proud to work at LinkedIn is that we take privacy really seriously and data really seriously, and trust is our cornerstone to make the platform a trusted place for information and for people's professional brands. And so if there's hate speech or even political ads, those are the things that are not allowed on the platform, and we make it really easy for people to flag that, and we will address it. So just to kind of come through from a different angle in that space. Also just really conscious of that not everybody is out in the community as LGBTQIA, and that if that is you're not comfortable in that space, then I fully understand that piece as well. So it's really, to Calvin's point, like how authentic or how comfortable you are sharing. And I'll be honest, I've certainly grown in how much I'm sharing in my professional space around LinkedIn as well. And I think that given the pandemic and the culture we're living in, it's hard to connect with people in person. And so I'm finding myself needing to be more open and sharing more in this network than usual, because I really want to connect with community and start conversations that I might want to do in person but can't. So I'm just kind of putting that kind of cultural context in play too.
That is super helpful. So I have I think this might be our last question, and it's directed to Calvin. Calvin, can we reach out to you if we're interested in working at LinkedIn?
Of course, anytime. Like I said, I think, like Sergio said, to me, sharing on LinkedIn hasn't come in natural. And the big thing that I found useful in terms of sharing on LinkedIn is that my passion is helping others. That's why I'm in recruiting. That's why I'm in the profession of connecting people to opportunities. So yeah, if you're interested in LinkedIn, doesn't matter if it's software-engineering or just want to learn more about what's it like to work at LinkedIn, I'm always very happy to chat because I work at a company that I truly feel very happy and blessed about. And I feel like that's something that I'm not going to be able to fake it. And that's something that I would love to share with people. So yeah, if you're interested in LinkedIn, send me an invite, send me a message, send me an email if you have one. And I'm very happy to chat about it as well.
That's great. Thank you so much for your generosity. So I think we have one last poll. As you can see, it's on your screen right now. How helpful was this webinar? So if you could please fill this out, it's super helpful for Equality California and for our panelists. And then the results, I think, will be sent to our panelists. So I don't think there are any other questions that have come in our Q&A box, but I just wanted to take an opportunity to thank our two amazing speakers today. Sarah Jo and Calvin, you've been incredibly helpful. LinkedIn is an amazing platform. And as you said, there's 700 million people across the world who are on this incredible platform. And it gives us an opportunity, especially during COVID, when we're all stuck in our very small circles, to reach out, to expand our networks, to look for new jobs, to pivot. Obviously the economic dislocations of this pandemic have had an incredible impact on all of us as far as employment and just, as you said, mental health and just, how we presenting ourselves as human beings. And, we're lucky to have, these two amazing speakers today. We will be sending out an email to everyone who has RSVP for today's profile, for today's webinar. You'll get the link to the entire presentation. There'll be opportunities to ask for further information. Again, if you go to our website on the COVID-19 website for Equality California, there's just a tremendous number of resources. And I'd like to thank our panelists again. Thank you so much, Sarah Jo and Calvin. You've just really been incredible today.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Equality California. And thank you to attendees. Appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.